Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sander Lanch podcast. Now, I'm sorry, I promised you all at the end of last week's episode we would be back to Tress of the Emerald Sea this week. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a snafu when we met to record yesterday for our normal Saturday evening record. The bot that we use on Discord to record for us was undergoing maintenance for an hour unexpectedly, and our schedule was so tight we could not push it back an hour. So Joe and I have gotten together today to do a little something different, and then next week we should be back, fingers crossed, assuming nothing else goes horribly awry, to Tress of the Emerald Sea with the next chapters, which are going to be 37 through 43. So, sorry, y'all. Hang in there. But today, we're revisiting an oldie. We're going to do some one-star reviews. I'm Data, and with me is...
It's Joe! Hello, everyone.
Yeah, the Texas crew is here. The Australians are, well, this is our Sunday evening, so this is their Monday morning. They're going to work right now. But this should be fun, I hope. Hang on to something, everybody. The Sander Lanch is about to begin.
From Omega to Mars, from the council to the seediest bars, from the reaches of space to the pillars of a starry grace. There are battle wombitarians lacking in humility. Turians are bragging about their reach and flexibility. The clutter of the city spreads to the lowliest stars. But no matter what scars you bear, whatever uniform you wear, you can fight like a Krogan, run like a leopard, but you never be better than Commander Shepard.
So yeah, I pulled up, because the most recent book we read was Oathbringer. I pulled up the one-star reviews of Oathbringer. Now, keep in mind that if you're writing a one-star review of Oathbringer, that means that probably you read The Way of Kings and then Words of Radiance.
One would hope.
And then you liked those books enough to be like, I'm going to read the third book in this series.
Yeah, when was the last time, do you remember, Data? When's the last time we did this? Because we did this once before with like the first three Mistborn books, I think.
Yes, it was I think our baby break when Dak and Jamie had their first child was when we did it, and it was after the first three Mistborn books, and we did 3 sessions of one of each Mistborn book, I think. And then we had another fun one where it was like I picked up random one-star reviews of fantasy books or books that you knew and was like, can you figure out what book this is from the review? That was the fourth week of baby break.
Yes, I'm remembering this now. Man, that's been a long time.
Yeah, that child is like 5 now or something, so it has been a long time since we did this.
Mm-hmm.
If you want some fun Cosmere one-star reviews, they do, the Cosmere Chronicles folks heard our one-star review episode, and then they do like one a year or something over there, so you can go check out some of those. They're entertaining. But I don't think they've done Oathbringer, so, you know. And then, as a treat, after some of these Oathbringers, I got something a little different.
Ooh. I don't even know what it is.
No, yes, it's a surprise. So, as with last time, I went to Amazon and Goodreads looking for one-star reviews. I even brought up the Barnes & Noble page to see if they didn't have any one-star reviews on Barnes & Noble for this book. Also, Amazon had 74,283 ratings, none of them 1-star.
Interesting.
So, went to Goodreads. Goodreads has 366,335 ratings for this book. Of those, 1,216 are 1-star. So that is, when I mathed it out, that is 1/3 of 1% of the reviews. So it is not the popular opinion on this book, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
In fact, hold on, I'm going to bring it up again. Oathbringer. Let's look at the overall distribution, because I didn't pay much attention to that. But okay, so distribution of reviews on this one: 68% 5 stars, 24% 4 stars. 5% gave 3-star, and then less than 1% did 2-star, and less than 1% did 1-star.
So we are talking about a very small percentage of people who bothered to review this book at all decided to give it a negative review, which in these times of negativity, we have to say that's pretty high praise for this book.
True. So let's do, I think the first one is the longest one, but it's broken down so well that I just had to use this. So the first one I have is from Mark, and this is from 2018. He left this, How to Destroy an Epic Fantasy Series in 10 Easy Steps.
Whoa.
We might need to address each step, actually, because
okay.
Step 1, take the most compelling character from the first 2 books in parentheses, Kaladin, and make him a two-dimensional background figure. So, I mean, Kaladin definitely isn't front seat as much as in the first book, because it's not his book as much.
Right.
And in the second book, like, he had his own section, but he was also in, like, the Dalinar sections, so I feel like he probably also was more prevalent there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I feel like he's a background two-dimensional character. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I definitely don't think so. There's definitely a lot of stuff in Oathbringer where Kaladin's specifically on page struggling, having issues, not able to kind of, because the second book kind of sets him up at the end as like, this is our hero, what a hero, and then like there's some real struggle in this next book of like finding who he actually is, who he can be, and then like Kaladin's constantly struggling with a fear of and having to go through some type of failure, not being able to protect the people that he wants to protect. And I think that's pretty highlighted well in this book. And so if you're saying our hero doesn't get to hero as much in this book, or one of our heroes doesn't get to hero as much in this book, I totally get it. But I also don't think at any point during any of the three of these books that we read was I like, oh, Kaladin's the main character, everybody else is tertiary. Like that's not how these books are written. It's obvious that this is like an ensemble of characters, and that we're rooting for all of them, not just Kaladin. So it feels to me like this guy is super infatuated with Kaladin and was like, why is he not the coolest character in this book?
Yeah.
So I kind of get that if that's where he's coming from.
If I remember right, and I don't remember which ones I chose exactly, but I think it was a theme among the 1-star reviews that people were like, well, Kaladin is the main character of the series, and he doesn't get to feature as much here. He's not the guy who comes in and saves the day at the end like he has been in the last two. And so, I think that's a common complaint.
Yeah. So then I would argue, and then I would argue that, right? It's like, I guess you're not reading the books. Like he isn't the main character. Yeah. They're all main characters.
This isn't just the Kaladin story. If that's what you wanted, then I guess yes.
The book's not called Kaladin and the story and the Ballad of Oathbringer or something like that. Like it's Oathbringer. Yeah. Just like the first book's called The Way of Kings. Kaladin doesn't even know what The Way of Kings is in the first book.
True. Yeah. Okay, so step 2, take the most annoying character from the first 2 books, in parentheses, Shallan, and make her 10 times more annoying.
Okay, so that guy doesn't like Shallan. Now, I will agree. I think we all got a little, not all of us maybe, but I did get a little tired of like the split personality thing. I was like, this is something that needs to be addressed, but I feel like they're just kind of pushing the envelope on it. I don't think Shallan's the most annoying character, but at the same time, like I do get where he's coming from. It's like that. It was getting to a point where like, okay, we get it. She's kind of like, there's something going on with her in her brain that's not good. But to call her the most annoying character again, it's an opinion, right? Everybody's got their own opinion. I like Shallan, but I can see like some of the stuff with her character's a little ugh.
Once again, I don't remember if it's in these reviews, but overall it is an opinion I have heard people have repeatedly that they just don't like Shallan. And I've heard people go so far as to be like, yeah, you could just like skip the Shallan chapters in the first book. And I'm just like, well, I mean, yeah.
Will you skip the chapters?
Especially people rereading, they're like, yeah, I hate Shallan so much, I just skip all those chapters. I was like, okay, well.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you know the story, I guess you could skip it, but I don't know why you would ever read a book and be like, oh, I can just skip this part. Like, what?
Somebody posted the other day on the Mistborn subreddit, I think, that their boyfriend was reading Mistborn, and he was half the first book, and halfway through she found out that he was skipping all of the epigraphs at the beginning of the chapters, and he said that he'd read them like later because he knew they weren't going to be important until the end of the book, if at all. And
weird.
I was like, it's bold of you to just assume like, yeah, these things won't be important until the end of the book. Like, where are you getting that from? But
yeah, I guess like for me, I read a book in college, and it was assigned to us. It was like a book about how to read books, basically. Mm-hmm. Basically, the premise of the whole book was like, read everything. Like, read the foreword, read the prologue, like, that's how you consume books, because like they wrote that stuff in the book so that you would understand what the book is about, right?
Yeah.
So like for me, it's like, no, you don't now and I don't take my own advice, right? I don't always read the Ars Arcanum or whatever's in the back,
Sure.
but I do I do read everything else in the book.
Okay, his third step is, I think, maybe the one I disagree with most here. Give the most boring character from the first two books, in parentheses, Dalinar, a long meandering backstory that never goes anywhere. And I'm like, I don't think we read the same books if you think Dalinar's the
No.
most boring and that his story doesn't go anywhere here.
Yeah, in fact, I would argue that this book, because of his backstory and what you actually learn about him, makes Dalinar way more interesting. So I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from. Again, right? Like everybody's got their opinion. This guy's obviously very opinionated. But to call Dalinar boring, even in the first book, I think is a little far, right? He's got stuff going on. He's struggling.
Yeah, like he's going crazy and or thinks he's going crazy and is trying to figure out, no, and I can see why if you came into this book being like, well, Dalinar's the most boring character ever, then this is probably not a great book for you because
it's Dalinar focused. It's the Dalinar prologue. It's the Dalinar book.
So I'm understanding more and more about why this guy wouldn't care for this book, even if I don't agree with his points.
Right.
Number 4, develop a tumultuous and fascinating planetary ecosystem in the first two books, and then completely ignore it in the third. Which, I mean,
there's a lot of traveling in this book, so I guess like we're not quite as focused on it. But I feel like in the first two books, where he's established it, right? So like we kind of know what's up with the planet. So like I don't know why you would need to focus on it as much unless they're specific. Like unless I'm trying to think of a reason why you would need to focus on it more here. Unless like there's something about the planet that is causing the issue in the story, I don't know why you would need to focus on it as much.
I almost feel like since we're on the Shattered Plains so much in the first two, like you're outside a lot. Whereas in this one, we're at Urithiru. We spend a lot of time in Kholinar, in this city that's been, civilized and stuff. We go to Shadesmar, which is different from the normal ecosystem. So I think it just doesn't have as much time and focus on it.
Right.
But I don't feel like it was ignored either. So
no. And also, maybe this is just my opinion. I think the Shadesmar stuff way more interesting. I wish we could have spent more time in Shadesmar in Oathbringer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Number 5, overload an initially intriguing mythology with so many extra details and layers of history, it becomes bloated, tedious tapestry of random deities, events, and magic speak.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I was like, I don't feel like there was a bunch of random deities around for sure. I've read lots of books with lots more gods than this one.
Oh, yeah.
But,
and also, like, magic speak, like, there wasn't any more like magic-y explanation in this book than there was in any of the other ones.
I mean, we're starting to get to know the powers a little better and get to use them a little probably more easily, but I don't know.
Right.
If I feel like that's a bad thing.
No. It's like, for me, it's like, oh, I'm finally getting answers for all this stuff that's going on.
Number 6 is insert generous amounts of modern colloquialisms into character dialogue to instantly take readers out of your world.
Okay. So you don't want to understand what's going on in the book.
Well, no, it's just, and I've heard people complain about that a lot too. And there's a specific passage in Wind and Truth that people call out and are really bad, where it's like words get used that are like modern English words, and they're like, but that wouldn't fit in. That completely takes me out of the universe that you're saying this thing, and I'm just like, I don't agree with that, but I kind of get what people are saying.
Yeah, I guess also like if you really want to be immersed, see, to me, I'm like, the language isn't the part that takes me out of the immersion, unless they're saying like, totally cool, dude. Then that would make sense to me. Like if they were saying like weird expressions that don't fit, like I would kind of get that. But like for the most part, the language to me, if it's used in that way, it's just so that like I, as a reader, you're understanding what they're talking about or what's going on.
Yeah, I get that. I don't remember any passages from Oathbringer that stick out to me as being colloquialisms, but there's probably some, and I just don't notice.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we're not looking back on that correctly, and there is more stuff that we're kind of like, oh, yeah, why is that in there?
Number 7, introduce a dangerous and powerful threat at the end of Book 2, i.e. the Voidbringers and the Everstorm, and then push them far into the background in Part 3.
Okay, I might agree with that a little bit, right? It's like, we're kind of like we were kind of on the edge of our seat for a lot of this book. until the end. And then now to say the Voidbringers were pushed into the background, I think is maybe a little false, because we end up finding that like, no, humanity is the Voidbringer. So like, was it pushed into the background, or was it held until that reveal was discovered? Right. So like, I could see where he's coming from a little bit on that, though, right? It's like we were waiting for a long time for something to happen in the book. Now it does happen, right? Like there's an invasion of Kolinar. There's an invasion. It obviously did happen. It wasn't pushed into the background. I think it's just like we were kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then eventually it does.
There's a couple of major battles, like you say. I think, to me, I get that it's like, oh no, like the Everstorm showed up, there's bad guys popping up, what's going to happen? And then it doesn't happen right away. It makes sense to me that, hey, stuff takes, like, even a magical enemy army takes a little while to get everything organized and going.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me that it's not instant, but yes, I get what people, I get where you're coming from with that random guy.
Random Mark.
Was that your name? Yes, Mark. But I think that it makes sense. It's like, I was gonna say it's like Game of Thrones. I didn't read the later books of Game of Thrones, but it's like winter is coming. Winter doesn't just show up, and it's like, okay, I'm here now, with no preamble.
Right.
But then again, I don't know. I didn't watch the show or read the later books, so I don't know what winter ended up being.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't do that either. So
I know that it didn't show up in the first two books. So
that's right. It did not. And if I'm remembering correctly, I don't remember if I finished the third book, if I got a good ways through it, but I'm pretty sure in that one it's just like a lot of fighting. Maybe that's the second book. I don't remember.
Step 8, with the world endangering threat pushed to the background, spend hundreds of pages having characters engage in dozens of small errands, conversations, and incoherent missions that never amount to anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if let's say, and I don't know this Mark guy, maybe these books were his first like Brandon Sanderson books. Like we have the benefit as we've gone through this podcast to kind of get like character development, dialogue is it's kind of Brandon's thing, right? Like that's what he spends the majority of his time on, right? So like if you're a person that doesn't know that going in to these first 3 books, I would say like, okay, well maybe that's why you're not kind of getting it. But I would argue that the pacing and like event pacing is much better in this book than in the previous 2 books, in my opinion. When we read it, like I was like, oh yeah, I like this book when we were talking about Way of Kings, but like the pacing's not great. And then I kind of said the same thing about Words for Reading. It's like, I like this book, but the pacing's not great. And then this one, I was like, oh, the pacing's better in this one. So if that's your complaint, I was like, well, where were you for the first 2 books? And maybe this guy went and reviewed the first 2 books, but it sounded like he kind of liked them. So I don't know.
Yeah, it did. And I think it's interesting what you're saying, because this one does have more than those first 2, sort of like some goalposts, like multiple steps. It's like we got the Kolinar story, and then we get resolution for that, and then we move and we have the next thing, which is, I think, kind of what he's complaining about, where it's like, oh, they have all these little things, little side missions that don't ever amount to anything. And I'm like, I don't know that any of them don't amount to anything, but
yeah. And again, maybe this goes into his previous complaint, right? He's like, he's not a big fan of just like them sitting around and talking, but like I think a lot of the big events end up leading to just character development, right? But at the same time, it also amounts to like releases of power. Like there's that giant culminating moment, at least in our heads, of like Dalinar being like, you can't take my pain, I'm gonna fight you, I'm not gonna be your champion. Like that's a big deal, right? That's a big narrative deal, big poignant point in the story. It's a culmination of the background that we've been feeling, or that we've been reading for Dalinar the whole time. So like, yeah, I think you're right. It's a little bit of a fair statement for this person to say like, that's this stuff like does lead to something. And then like the Kolinar stuff, as kind of dreary as it is, it leads to some character development for Kaladin too. And that this guy's a big Kaladin fan, so maybe that is really what upset him. He's like, they go to Kolinar, Kaladin doesn't do anything. Like maybe that's kind of what he's getting at here. It's like, it doesn't amount to anything. It's like, well, it amounts to a lot of inner reflection for Kaladin, and like having to put his trust in other people, right? He's like having to trust that other people can take care of it when he can't, which I think is what ends up happening, right? A lot of his friends come to his aid, protect him. He's getting protected a little bit more in this book than him protecting other people. So
Yeah, it's almost like some character development is happening, you know?
Yeah, almost like people are growing and changing, and it's a living, breathing story.
The one thing that I could think of that I was like, maybe this was a side story that didn't come to anything, was like Kaladin goes to see if his parents are okay at the beginning of the book. Like that's his whole like first part of the book. And then he just kind
Yeah.
of leaves again after he gets there. And I was like, okay, so maybe nothing like earth shattering comes out of that, but I think it is 100% in character for Kaladin that he's like, wait, I have magic powers and I go check on my family. That is my first priority beyond whatever you're saying, Dalinar. So
Yeah. And we get some pretty good development there. He finds out he has another
brother,
another little brother, and he's like excited. He's like, I'm gonna protect you guys. So yeah, but I get it too. Like, might have been more there, but I feel like we get a lot of good like little comeuppance stuff in that too, right? He punches out that dude, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah, that really kind of ties up a big part of his story, is like his hatred of this guy in the past, and he
Right.
punches him here and then realizes I'm like so far past this at this point.
Yeah, it's like I'm so much better than this. I didn't even need to punch that guy. It felt good though.
Step 9. Be sure to describe even the smallest details of every room, city, street, and character outfit under the pretense of, quote, world building.
Okay.
I feel like over detail on stuff like that is one of the things that Brandon Sanderson is not famous for.
Right.
He's not using like flowery language to talk about every detail of every single thing. So that seems bizarre to me as a complaint. But
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he usually, and I don't like over explanation, but I don't think I've ever had a problem with Brandon on that. It's like, it's not over flowery. It's like it's giving me a good word picture, and then we kind of move on from the thing.
mm-hmm.
So I don't see. I think you can read a lot of authors that are much worse in that regard.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's hard for me to read like Dickens books. I'm just like, I like the stories, but I'm like, ugh, I don't need to know how many buttons are on this sweater and what this button looks like and all that. That's a little too much for me.
As like a teenager, I like Dickens. I tried like Tale of Two Cities a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, I do not enjoy this.
No, it's it was good to like before you read those classics, you're like, oh, I'm reading this classic, and yeah, this is these are interesting characters. But yeah, it was always a slog for me to get through like the descriptive parts of his books.
A classic author that I love though is Dumas.
Yeah.
Stuff. Anyway, the step 10 in his 10-step program: take the excitement and goodwill generated by your first 2 books and piss it all away on a self-indulgent, lazy, meandering 1,200-page filibuster.
What's the filibuster about?
The book is the filibuster, I guess. Yeah. What are you filibustering against? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think that word means what you think it means, dude.
It also doesn't feel particularly lazy to me, but whatever.
No. Have you written that many words, Mark?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you... Lazy. That's funny.
It ends with, so congrats, Brandon Sanderson. You've more than fulfilled all 10 criteria and have now permanently lost me as a reader. To anyone considering reading Oathbringer, avoid it at all costs. And then at the bottom it says, did not finish 2, which I think means he put it on one of his lists called did not finish 2.
Okay. So you didn't even finish it. So we don't even know how far he got into the book.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll just say for anybody out there reading, like, usually you got to finish the book to see like what gets paid off, right? I'm a big proponent of that, right? Like, and I'll be the first to say sometimes I can't get into books the first couple of chapters, so I drop them, but I don't say like that was a bad book because I couldn't get through it. I say, oh yeah, I had a hard time getting into that book. I don't know if it's good or not. I don't think you can judge a book if it's good unless it's just like terrible writing, right? I don't think you can judge a book by saying like I didn't finish, so I don't know. I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, for me there is for some things at least, there's like a critical mass where if you've gotten halfway through the book and the writing is terrible, the characters talk ridiculous, like if it's that sort of thing, then I'm like, okay, you can review the book and be like, I thought the prose was really terrible in this book. Right. I don't think that at 50% you can review the book and say this story doesn't pay anything off.
Yes.
Because you didn't get to the end of the story.
Right.
But I also don't think that after like 2 chapters you should be leaving a review out there to be like, this book sucks for whatever reason. I'm like, you did not give that enough of a chance.
Right. No, yeah, that's kind of how I agree with it. Yeah. The prose is bad. Like you get it. It's like, oh, this book to me was unreadable because I couldn't finish it, but I can't comment on the actual like story bits except up to what I read. I can't make a complete complete judgment on the book. But I get the practical aspect of not finishing a book. I think too often people are subject to, I'm going to get into like some real accounting nerd stuff here. People are too subject to like the sunk fallacy cost, right? It's like, oh, well, I paid for this book. I don't really like it, but I guess I got to finish it. Or like, oh, I paid for this movie and I'm sitting through it, and halfway through it's terrible, but I guess I got to sit here till the end because I paid for it. It's like your time is actually probably more valuable spent doing other things. But at the same time, then, I don't think you should, again, use your time and waste it on a review when you didn't actually finish the thing that you started, right?
Yeah, that's fair. There's been a couple of movies I would have left. I would have absolutely walked out of Napoleon Dynamite if I hadn't been the ride for all the people that I was with. I can't leave them.
That's what I mean. Like, you are allowed to walk out of a movie you don't like if you think it's terrible halfway through, because it's like, even though you paid it for the ticket, it's like if you absolutely hate what's going on, your time is more valuable than sitting there and finishing that film.
There have definitely been books I didn't enjoy, but I continued to the end because the story had gotten me enough that I was like, I got to know what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay to stop in the middle and be like, I am hating this book. I will stop.
Yeah. And there's value in that too, right? Like if I say, oh, well, the value of the prose is not great, but the value of the story I'm enjoying. So let me just get to the end. That's different. But then to go back and if you do decide, yeah, I'm not going to finish this book, like we've kind of been saying, like to go back and then review it and say it's terrible. It's like, well, what? And you don't know that the story was bad. You didn't finish it.
Yeah. Okay, let's do I'm kind of skip. I copied like 10 of these down. I don't know. We'll go through all of them. I'm skipping around to grab some. But this one is from Cheryl from 2019.
Okay. So a little bit later than the first guy, like a year later. When did this book come out?
Oathbringer came out. I have the page up. It came out 2017.
Okay, so these people are reviewing it somewhat recently after it came out.
Yeah, within a couple years. Well, it came out November 2017 too, so pretty close to 2018. Cheryl says, it kept building up to a much better conclusion / battle toward the end, but it was super disappointing. It's been 2 weeks since I finished it, and I'm still disappointed. I'm almost regretting taking on the series in the first place for it to end this way. And then she has like a list of complaints. No body said new ideals. No new shards were obtained. Kaladin fizzled out from being the hero we spent 60% of the novels with to just being another Radiant, reduced to nothing more than brooding, failing at everything he attempts, depressed bridge boy, unable to bring himself to say the next ideal, uneven able to kill Amaram. There's no difference in power between Kaladin and Teft? What? And then total letdown. So...
Well, I will say this. She seems to have put more thought into the narrative beats, right? And she's expressing exactly what she felt was wrong with the book without just saying like the story was bad. And again, I guess I understood through the first book that this was an ensemble piece. Like, I like Kaladin a lot. I think he's one of the best characters, but at the same time, like, I understand he's not the main character, like the only main character. I guess like I don't know how you read these books and be like, Kaladin is the main character. I don't get how you get that. But
yeah, that once again seems to be a big part of the complaint here, is that like he's not 60% of this book also, and he had like issues and didn't manage to say an ideal and save the day again.
Yeah.
And so yes, I feel like that's a similar issue this person is having to the last person. I don't know. Unable to kill Amaram is an interesting point. We talked about it, and I think Dak pointed out that it's actually there's kind of a poetic justice to like Amaram killed Kaladin's crew, and now Kaladin's crew killed Amaram.
Yeah,
or a member of it did. But I can see why you'd be upset about that in particular, because the Kaladin and Amaram thing has been coming for a long time, and they have a really big dramatic fight in this one. And yeah, Kaladin doesn't get to land the final blow. I don't think he has to, but I get why somebody would be bad.
Yeah. I think it's more poignant and character developing leading up into the next book of like a little bit of concern that Rock does it. It's like, oh man, what's going to happen now?
Yeah, story-wise, like there's more potential there. If Kaladin killed Amaram, he'd be like, okay, awesome. I've been wanting to do that for a long time.
Yeah, got that done, and I didn't mess up my ideals to do it. So great. Yeah.
It's much more dramatic for Rock to have like gone against his principles to save Kaladin and what's going to come of that.
Right.
Also, some of these things are just factually incorrect. Nobody said new ideals. I think Dalinar kind of pretty dramatically says a new ideal. So does
Yeah.
Teft gets his ideals. Like, there's multiple people.
Right. And then her complaint that like Teft is the strongest Kaladin is like, yeah, he's a radiant in his own right. He's not a squire anymore.
Wait, and it says there's no power difference between them. And I'm like, well, do we know? We didn't sit there and test their powers against each
That's
other.
true
We saw
too.
a little bit
That's
of Teft,
true too. We don't know that that's yeah.
And then no new shards were obtained. I'm pretty sure we saw Teft get a shard. We saw actually at the beginning of the book, Renarin reveals that he's just gotten a shard blade. So
right.
I think that maybe you missed some stuff in your rush to pay attention to Kaladin and nothing else.
Right. And also, like, I feel like if you're talking about no new shards were obtained, like no new sets of armor or like, screaming blades were obtained, maybe that is true.
It's a good thing.
But yeah, also it's like we've now just figured out, except for the armor, like we've kind of, we still are not super like sure about how the armor is created.
True.
But at the same time, like we know that like the swords aren't great. So like, why would you want people to get new ones of those?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. All right, this next one is super short, but it was one of my favorites that I saw. And I had to put it in here. This one is from Teresa in 2018, January 2018. So this is like a month and a half after the book came out.
Yeah, hot on the tail of the book coming out. So this person read it pretty quick.
Teresa says, "Boring. Guess I should have started with book one." But
that is wild.
But
who starts a book halfway through?
Like, yeah, who starts on the third book of these? She says, but could not get into the names and locations too in depth to follow. I'm like, that's because you missed the first two books that set up all the names and locations.
Yeah, I cannot imagine, and I'm sure people did it, right? But I can't imagine picking up Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban and being like, well, I take that back because there is a lot of intro in each of them.
She reintroduces a lot of stuff.
Kind of like. Which I guess was maybe Jim Butcher's thing with the Dresden Files as well for a while. Yep. He was like, well, I want people to be able to pick up any one of these books and kind of just start there and get a good story.
Brandon is not doing that here.
No. Which I enjoy. It's like, if I'm here for the third book, it's because I read the first two. So like, you don't have to reintroduce everybody. Let's just get to it.
Yeah. Also, this is the only Goodreads review Teresa has ever left. It shows how many reviews each person has done, and this is her one review. So
she picked up Oathbringer right after it came out. I'm guessing maybe on like a friend's suggestion. Oh, you'll love Brandon Sanderson.
Or she saw it at like the bookstore, and it was like, look at these new book releases, and she grabbed it.
And she was just like, oh yeah, that looks good. That looks interesting. I'll grab that. Who's on the cover of like the regular American release? Not that we know this person's American.
That was Yasna with like her giant glowy white shard blade making stairs along the wall.
Yeah, I love Yasna, maybe somebody who saw Yasna on the cover and was like, oh, that lady looks cool. Let me read this book.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Megan. Megan says, did not finish. Read about 50 pages before realizing the story is now a bore. Kaladin became a holier-than-thou bore. Shallan became an insufferable bore. Dalinar became an uppity bore. Adolin stayed a bore. The variety of Parshendi POV become unexciting bores. I learned that I like my books to have sexy characters, wrestling with both good and evil, only to lose a bit of themselves as they prefer bad stuff over sacramental rewards, and to end up getting redemption through actual blood, sweat, and tears. I don't want to read a book that does nothing of the above, and all the characters are either magical, God-blessed, or plot devices. Blah. And I'm like, really, 50 pages in? That's what you took out of it?
I feel like this person came in from the second book with a presupposition, because if you're 50 pages into this book, I don't if you were a fan of the first two and then you're 50 pages into this one, I don't see how you would come to that conclusion. I don't feel like you didn't get that much.
Also, about the Parshendi POVs, I'm not sure there is one in the first 50 pages. I got to bring this up again, but that's a weird complaint to me. Why is my book not showing any letters or words?
That's weird. It's gone back to binary, huh?
Close out my Kindle. It's just like a bunch of white pages for some reason.
Weird. Your books have all been deleted.
No, not my precious books. That's okay. I have physical copies of most of these. Actually, I don't have a physical copy of Oathbringer.
Really?
Well, because I try to go for one copy of each book.
Oh,
because I don't want to end up with like a bunch of copies of the same book.
Sure.
And I started doing the leather bounds of the Cosmere books, and so that leather bound hasn't come out yet.
They did already like do the thing for it, right? It just hadn't come out.
No, the Words of Radiance Kickstarter is over. I think the Oathbringer Kickstarter is going to be this year and maybe next year. So yeah, they haven't done Oathbringer yet. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So the first few chapters of this book, the prologue is from Eshonai's perspective is the prologue. That's why they were like, oh, I didn't like the Parshendi POV was an unexciting bore.
Okay, well it's an intro.
Yeah. So I think these are some bold takes after 50 pages, is what I think.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this person must have come in from the second book being like, I don't know if I like this anymore. And then they get in here and they're like, yeah, I guess I really don't like it.
Megan, okay, you do you, I guess.
You do you, Megan.
The next one is from Sukanya, from May of 2018, so like 6 months after the book came out. Seriously, Brandon? Oh, I'm sorry. Seriously? Brandon Sanderson needs to get a grip. I got stuck with the series because I enjoyed book 1. 2 deathly boring books later, I wonder why I bothered. It's like Mr. Sanderson got so full of himself with the first book that he just wanted to spend the rest of the series in expository explanations. Yawn. I believe it's meant to drag on to a series of 10. Certainly not going to read anymore.
Okay. So, expository explanations. I mean, I guess I could see that a little bit, right? Like, but to me, I'm like, oh, I'm getting answers.
Yeah. There's, yes, he does say a lot of things in the book. If you don't like it, I don't know that the second 2 are dramatically different from the first one in that way, except that we are, in fact, getting more answers. Like, we're learning more as we go along and building on what we already know. So maybe it's just too hard to keep up with all of the things you have to know. I don't know.
Right. And like, I'm not sure that I would say, and again, this is my opinion. I would say of the 3 books, the first one's the weakest. So like, I don't really know. I don't know.
The first one definitely gives us fewer answers than any of the others, and it leaves you wanting more the most. So maybe I get why it seems different in that way, because they don't answer many questions for us in the first book. No. It introduces the things, and then we make a little bit of progress, but we don't find out that much.
Right.
I don't know. Okay, the next one is from Luke Joseph, and this is from January 2018 also, so this is like 2 months
hot
after
on the tail.
It was so bad, I want someone to feel bad, Luke says. Here's the problem with, quote, world-building fiction. At some point, the world is built, and all that becomes clear is that the author cannot write dialogue, lurches back and forth between much too contemporary and much too affected tones, and is not funny. He writes clever characters and gritty scenes, those are both in italics, like you would think a Mormon would.
What?
In prior books, I could get grit through how awful all that was because our little stripling warrior had some depth. But in this book, Cal's gone full Mary Sue, vacillating across the emotional chasms of being loved by everyone and being right all the time, and even complete with a very special episode of the Stormlight Archives where we learn about tolerance. The conclusion is cartoonishly bad. Darth Odium might as well have been called the Phantom Menace.
Okay. Let's put aside the Mormon thing, right? Because like that's a whole thing that I'm like, okay, you don't like Mormons or what? Let's just put that aside and kind of like talk about what he's saying as far as critiquing the book. So kind of read me, because I got distracted by that other stuff. Kind of read me the first one of his first points that's like about the story.
So, he says he can't write dialogue and lurches back and forth between the dialogue being too contemporary and too affected and is not funny. So what that's not about the story so much as it's about the writing. But
yeah, what about, and maybe I'm stupid. What does he mean too affected? Do you know what he's trying to say there?
I'm assuming that means it's like moving too much into like, oh, look at how weird people talk in this world. Okay, but I don't know for sure what he's supposed to mean there. The too contemporary part, like we've heard that complaint already. I get that,
right?
But yeah, I'm assuming that too affected is like the opposite of that, where it sounds artificially, like unusual. But I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the contemporary stuff, like I guess it didn't stick out as a sore thumb to me quite as much.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to know if there's specific characters that speak in too contemporary of a way, like if they're talking about Lyft or something.
See, I almost thought Lyft might be the too affected because she like uses all these like curse words and stuff that are in universe that no one else has even ever heard. So I
Right.
was like, maybe that's where he's like, oh, it's too affected and not funny.
Right. I will agree with him a little bit on the jokes. Like whenever Brandon tries to be humorous, there are some genuinely funny moments, but for the majority of it, I'm like, I will often think in my head, he's trying a little bit hard here to be funny. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not my taste, right? It's like not my cup of tea. It's like, yeah, he's trying a little too hard here to be funny. I don't really find that funny. But I don't think it's so bad that it detracts from the book, right? Like a lot of people have problems with the new Star Wars films because they think they're too jokey, which I'm always like, have you seen the original 3? There's a lot of weird, quirky jokes in those too.
Yeah, there kind of are.
But I get it, right? Like the beginning of I think it was the beginning of the last one where Poe Dameron is talking to Donahan's character or whatever, and I was like, yeah, we could probably do without this. It's not a good way to open the film. But at the same time, like I kind of get it, and also I'm biased against Poe Dameron. I don't think he's a good character, but yeah, I wouldn't say that the jokes like distract from the narrative completely, but I get where he's coming from with that. But what is his other gripes here? He's like the writing, the jokes.
Yeah, so his story stuff was Kaladin is full Mary Sue and everyone loves him and he's right all the time. And I was like, that's kind of the opposite of what other people have been complaining about, where Kaladin has problems and doesn't get to save the day and all that stuff. So I was like,
right.
Are you talking about the same book as the other people are talking about?
Right. Now I will, agree. Like if you think Kaladin's the main character and the only main character of the book, this is not, probably your happy book, because he's real Harry Potter 5th book here. He's having a hard time. There's no, magical monster inside his head, but he's having a hard time. And so I kind of get it. Like if Kaladin was the one who Odium had chosen to be his champion and he was facing off with Odium in this book, I don't think Kaladin would have made it. I think Kaladin would end up being Odium's champion. But that's not the focus here. Dalinar's the more of the focus in this book.
Yeah. I mean, part and parcel of the whole thing. Everyone gets some attention in their several books.
Yeah, I honestly, like I said, I think this is the strongest of the books we've read so far, because I got to know and we got to spend time with characters that we didn't get to spend much time with. Like Yasna, I was like, oh man, give me more Yasna. Yasna, I'm a Yasna stan. Like, give me all the Yasna I can handle. I love Yasna.
And so some of the other Bridge 4 guys are getting to come into their own more and stuff.
Yeah. Like we love Teft, we love Rock. Like, come on. Yeah, I guess for me, I'm a big fan of character development, dialogue, and things like that. So maybe these books are written more for my tastes, but like I enjoy when side characters are brought more to the forefront. It's like, yeah, we get to spend some time with these people. Now, the exception being Moash, right? We don't like Moash. So it's like every time we got to a Moash chapter, we're like, oh God, this guy.
Wait till the Moash book,
Oh no. Wind and Truth is like told completely from Moash's perspective. What an awful
that would be something.
That would be pretty terrible.
Okay. The next one is from a guy or a girl, someone called AP, and it is from June 2018.
Okay, so still pretty close to when the book came out.
Yeah, still within like a year of the book coming out. It's titled "The Disappointment of Ages," and says, so it seems that the slight disappointment of the second book bloomed into this disaster. I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. How can something so good become so bad? The only explanation I have come up with is Mr. Sanderson's obsession with world building. The obsession to be unique at the cost of being somewhat ridiculous, and this book is a testament to that. The, quote, magic of the world that was marvelously mysterious during the first book has devolved into pure silliness with all the new supermen/women. The world itself is not Terabad, which you did not just use the word Terabad, but
what does that even mean? I don't
terrible
get that.
and bad combined together to make it extra super bad.
Terabad, huh?
Yeah. But when you try to fit something so epic in scale into such a bad mold, things turn ridiculous. The characters have turned not only boring, but also annoying. Each and every one seems to be on a continuous ego trip. I guess part of it is just the end result of Mr. Sanderson's failed attempt to create witty characters, together with delusions of success that has culminated in everyone trying and failing to be funny. Shallan is a good example of this, but the title of most annoying character goes to Yasna, a prime example of a character that fails to live up to her presentation. Her characterization never matches the actual words on the page. I just want to repeat, the magic is bad, the world is bad, it is bad, and I am sad. The word I've been looking for, cringy. This book, this story, the character, and especially the world is cringy with a capital C.
Okay. Yeah, I just got done talking about how much I love Yasna, so I'm like, okay, well,
That's
I don't
why I
agree
picked
with
that
this
one
guy.
to go next. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess this guy just has a very different opinion from me when reading the book, right? He's entitled to his opinion. I don't know that he makes, besides the funny thing, the humor thing, which again, I kind of agree with, right? Like sometimes it's a little too much. Again, I don't think it so much that it detracts from the book. Besides that, I don't know that he made really anything really poignant except saying he doesn't like Yasna. So I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, he said that the magic was mysterious at first, which we talked about that. It totally was. It started out very mysterious, and we've gotten gradual explanations of stuff. But now he says it's just silly. And I was like, I don't see the silliness of it, but okay.
I also like answers, and like we, in the greater, having read, we don't know how much this guy has read of the Cosmere. We, having read much more of the Cosmere, know that, there's not just one type of power, because it sounds like he complains there's multiple radiants and multiple radiant powers, which I'm like, why is that bad? I think that's cool. Like there's different manifestations of how these powers work.
Definitely a different perspective for those of us who have read a bunch of these other books and are like, oh, this is more in the same universe. I want to see like what answers we can get out of this. Like,
right.
Yeah, you really were coming at it in a bit of a different way. That's a good point.
Yeah. I wonder like how different my opinion would be if we hadn't started with Mistborn. Because like Mistborn, you pretty quick you figure out, oh, these powers are different. Like they manifest in different ways with different people unless they are special and have all the powers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I wonder how different my opinion would be if we'd started with Stormlight, and I was just like, oh man, what is going on with all these different powers?
Like, wait, there's like 10 different sets of powers. I gotta keep track of all of them.
What? No way. I mean, look, I'm not even keeping track of all of them right now. I'm fine. Like, I'm here for it. It doesn't matter. Like, I'll figure it out. Like, I don't have to
go
know.
with the flow. They'll tell me what the power is when they use it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like I don't need to know what a Dustbringer is right now. It's okay.
I will say he makes an interesting point about Yasna. I don't agree to, or he or she, to the degree that they're saying, but Yasna, they say, is a prime example of a character that fails to live up to her presentation. And I will say that we get a whole lot of, from Shallan's perspective and then from other people's perspectives, talking about Yasna is amazing, Yasna is so smart, Yasna's always right about everything. And then you get Yasna, and what we see a lot of is where she does fail to live up to like everyone expecting her to be perfect. Like she calls out that one, she calls out Amaram and like makes the insult about his mom and stuff. And Shallan's like, oh my gosh, that was so clever. And Yasna's like, well, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I've told you not to do. And I am now guilty of having done it also.
Yeah, I just did it. Which again, I think makes Yasna more interesting because it makes her more human.
A more nuanced character. She's not perfect, even when everyone thinks she is. I think that's a good thing. But I can see why if you're like, oh yeah, everyone says she's perfect, and then she's not. What the heck?
Again, it's like, why would you? I don't know. Why would you complain about that?
So I understand a little bit of what he's talking about, but leaning that it's all silly. I'm like, I don't think it's silly, but I guess that's definitely an opinion thing. I also don't think it's cringy, but you know, that's you do you once again.
Yeah, again, like if he's talking about the humor being cringy, yeah, it is sometimes. Like, I get the same perspective, which I like the Big Bang Theory, right? Not a lot. Some of that comedy is based on nerd culture cringe, right? And so, like, I kind of get that perspective of like, hey, I like. Being into stuff that was once considered nerdy is kind of in vogue right now. So like if you have comedy that is like that, it is getting to the point where I'm like, okay, is this really as funny as everybody's saying it is? Like, yeah, his comedic beats sometimes to me are not funny. But at the same time, like I don't come to read these books because I think they're funny. Like these are not comedy books, right? So like if the humor is not really to my tastes, I'm not like terrible book. I'm just like, yeah, the story's good. The comedic beats are not great because that's just not that funny to me. But again, humor is a matter of opinion.
Right. It's actually funny you say that because one of the reviews I did not pick up, somebody compares Brandon's writing to The Big Bang Theory in that they say like it's all of this stupid stuff that's supposed to be smart but is really just cringy or whatever, and I'm like,
right.
But
I like The Big Bang Theory. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I can see that if they're talking about the comedic beats in the book, I can agree a little bit with that. That's why I thought of The Big Bang Theory. I'm like, it gives me that same feeling when I watch The Big Bang Theory and there's some stuff in it that I don't think is that funny. It's kind of the same feeling. It's like it's trying to be funny, smart, and it's really just not that funny.
Fair. Okay, what do I got next? This one is from Ben, and it's from 2018 also, September 2018, so almost a year after the book came out. Reasons this is 1 star. First, after almost 3,500 pages, I'm still not really sure what is going on. And so I guess I'll stop and be like, I mean, on some level, yes, there's still a lot of mystery to what's going on. That's kind of why there's more than 3 books, but I feel like I'm following what's going on at this point for the most part. So maybe that's a you problem.
Yeah, there's some people read it with different levels of comprehension. So like if you came for a story that is super easy to follow, right? Like I guess I say that to say like there are certain types of fantasy books that I feel like the author expects a certain level of not education but understanding of like prose literature in general, right? Foreshadow, like you have to understand the like what hopefully people were taught in high school, right? Like what themes are, what foreshadowing is, what allegory, metaphor. You have to kind of understand those basic aspects of literature in order to maybe understand completely a story or a book, right? And so with that being said, you're not going to be able to follow it as easily if you're not. And again, I don't know this person's education background or level, right? But like if you don't have those basic building blocks of understanding literature, maybe it is more difficult to follow for some people.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay. I won't get into any more yet. Like you said, we can't assume.
We can't assume that what this person's level of understanding of all that stuff is.
His second point about why it's a 1 star took me almost a year to read, which once again I'm like, maybe that's a you thing, and maybe that explains why you're not following what's going on real well if you were reading it slowly over the course of a year. But once again, that might just be my opinion on it.
Yeah, and like for me, I've taken that long to read books, and what I usually end up having to do is just like, oh, I haven't picked this up in like 6 months. Let me go back and kind of skim what I've read so far so that I know like where I'm at. Because it's been a while since I picked this up. Or sometimes I'll just restart books completely because I'll be like, oh yeah, I never finished that, but I don't really remember what's going on. So let me just go back and refresh myself by just rereading what I've already read completely. But yeah, over the course of a year, if we're not doing it in the format that we're doing it in, where we like talk about it and discuss it every week, I can see that being hard to like follow and remember.
Yeah, for sure. If you're reading, a couple chapters every couple weeks and then yeah, it could be.
We're so focused on the Cosmere now. Like I remember at one point, maybe it was a year or two ago, I started rereading the first Mistborn book because I was like, you know what? I haven't read that in a long time and I'd like to remember some of that. And then I got about halfway through and was like, oh, but we're too busy reading these other books. And I remember reading some of that and being like, oh yeah, I don't remember this part. Just because it's been so long since it's been so long since we picked them up. It's like, there's going to be moments and chapters and bits that like I just didn't remember reading.
I had to pull up this guy's reviews now because he ends his review with talking about reasons he might continue the series. So I was like, I wonder if he did.
Oh yeah.
He did Wave Kings and Words of Radiance at 5 star, Oathbringer at 1 star, and then does not have reviews for the rest of the Stormlight books out. So I guess he did not continue the series.
So I guess it wasn't too difficult for him to follow if he read the first 2 books,
and thought they were 5-star books.
Yeah, exactly.
He also read The Final Empire and gave it 4 stars, and The Well of Ascension gave it 3 stars, and did not review the third book in that.
Hero of Ages.
Hero of Ages. So, okay, sorry. But to continue, Ben's, he says, mind-numbingly slow and boring for most of the book, which, I mean, okay, that's real opinion, and I don't agree.
Again, I'll have to go back to like my complaints with the first two books. Main complaints were pacing, and I said this one is better. So like, the people who read the first two books and loved them, and then read this one and was like, the pacing's terrible. I'm like, did we read the same book?
It definitely doesn't feel slower than like the first book to me.
No, the first book, I gave it a high rating because I really liked the characters, but man, it was slow.
Given that everything is new in the first book, and like every chapter you're discovering something new about like the characters in the world, it keeps my attention, even if it might be slower. So but I don't get how you go through those books and go, this one is so slow and boring. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't get that either, because there was some politicking, which I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah,
but it wasn't oversaturated with it like Well of Ascension was.
Dalinar even fights during his politicking.
Yeah, he sure does.
The last point for reasons why the book is bad: took the best character, Kaladin, from the previous two books and made him only about 30% of the book. So once again, it's like Kaladin's not the main character; it's bad.
Yeah, if you argue Kaladin was the most interesting character, I would say, yeah, he's still interesting, just maybe not in the way that you want, right? Like,
yeah, he's not like the hero at all times, and he's having trouble with stuff. So
right. Yeah. And I think like as I've grown older, I don't know the age of any of these reviewers, obviously, but as I've grown older, like, when I was younger, I probably felt that way, like, oh, Kaladin's my favorite character, and he's such a wuss in this one, like, it's not cool. But like as I've gotten older, I've grown to appreciate like nuance in character and being like, yeah, this guy's going through it. Maybe it's not fun to read because we like Kaladin, right? Like we don't want to see somebody we like go through this. But that's more of a relationship thing between me and liking that character. It's like I don't want to see him going through this, but it makes sense. Like he's having problems. He's not perfect.
But he has 4 reasons that he's like, reasons I may continue the series, ... maybe, possibly. I guess maybe he did not. But books 1 and 2 were amazing. Syl, Kaladin, and Dalinar. Which, I love that Dalinar is on that list when one of his complaints is like, Kaladin didn't get enough space, and that happens because Dalinar is getting that space. But, whatever.
Yeah, maybe he wanted it to be the Kaladin-Dalinar buddy book, and he didn't get that. He's like, more Kaladin and Dalinar being pals.
I brought his thing up, and one of the top things in his reviews is the second Dresden Files book. He rates 3 stars. So,
hey, second one's not too. Yeah, second one's not perfect, but it's pretty good.
No, I actually have that book on. It shows what my rating for the same book was. I have that book as a 2-star book because the first couple of Dresden Files books are not the best ones in my opinion.
I actually like Stormfront. I think a little bit better than Full Moon.
It looks like I gave them 2 stars each, but I don't hate them or anything, but I don't think they're as good as the rest. So,
yeah.
Anyway, here, let's do maybe one more good Oathbringer review before I move into the other thing that I have. We've gotten through most of these, actually. I think there's only like 2 left. Maybe we'll do
it. Yeah, let's just knock them out.
See how it goes. Okay, this person says, this is Robin, and this is from July of 2020, so a little bit further down the line.
Yeah, it is later.
DNF around 200 pages. My issue with this series and Brandon Sanderson in general isn't about his slow exposition or the long dives into his characters. He's a good writer, but he doesn't push any boundaries. When you're writing fantasy, you start with a blank slate. You can make whatever you want. In this world, you have a caste system based on eye color, straight and attractive men and women, and tons of tropes like the grizzled, handsome war veteran, the brilliant inventor, the slave, a young, powerful woman with an exasperated mentor, the dedicated surgeon. Sanderson does not change or challenge these tropes. There are some interesting magical elements, such as Spren and the Thrill, but it doesn't make up for the familiar world in which they occur. This is one of the most wild takes to me, where it's like, this world is too familiar. He's doing too much of the stuff that everybody else does. And I'm like, really? He said she lists out, I think this is a Robin, who's a she, the pictures of a corgi, so I don't know. But in this world, you have a caste system based on eye color, and that's one of the things that she calls out, or he, as a trope. And I'm like, I have never seen that before in my life.
No. Maybe they just mean caste system in general, and they just added the eye color part to be specific. But yeah, I don't know. The world familiar thing at the end is wild to me. But again, I don't know boundaries they're wanting them to push. This to me sounds like a person who comes in with the presupposition or they like fantasy that pushes like the genre outside of its norm, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, if you think that's what all fantasy should be, I don't think that is correct. Like, if that's what you like, that's what you like, right? But like, I don't think all fantasy should be that way. I think that a thing that brings people into books at first is somewhat of a familiarity with like, okay, I understand that these people are people, they're not monsters with 10 eyes. You know, they live in a world that's different from mine, but they have the same kind of human relationships that I have with people that I know. Like, without that, I feel like you're going to alienate a lot more readers than you're going to draw in, right? Like, we as human beings need some human experience in our story to like draw us in normally, right? Now, I'm not saying that's the only way you can be drawn into a story, but I would find it personally very difficult to read a story about 10-eyed monsters that I have nothing in common with, right? Like, what's going to draw me into that story?
Yeah, if it's like if the story was about the crabs and they had relationships to each other that are nothing like human relationships and that are impossible for us to understand or comprehend, then it's like I don't know that I could read that.
No,
Like,
what a book that would be if we if it was the crab book, like, and they communicated through dancing, and all we got was like description of crab dancing.
Yeah, just like literal, like describe. He danced 2 paces to the left and 3 to the front, and the other one danced 2 paces to the right, and then they walked off together. Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't have no idea what was going on. And we're taking this argument to an absurd level, right? Like that's probably not what this person means. But at the same time, I feel like that it's in the same vein. Like, they want something to be way different than what other fantasy books that they've read, and they don't want any tropes. It's like, well, they're called tropes for a reason, just like cliches are called cliches for a reason. We don't want to get to the level of saying this person's like this because and be prejudiced against them. But at the same time, like, the things that are familiar in these books is what's going to help us understand what these characters are going through or what they're like, right? Because we can't be inside the head of all the characters all the time, right? This story's not told that way. Most stories can't be told that way unless you're only hearing inside the perspective of one character and it's told in first person, right? Like, it's not really possible to do that in this style of writing. And so, again, I don't know exactly what this person was wanting from the book to push boundaries, but I feel like we've got to have something familiar in order to keep us like engaged.
Well, and also, like, some of this stuff, like the slave is a trope that I guess they don't like. And I'm like, I mean, would it be different if instead of a slave, he was a low-paid person trapped in the same situation because of, he didn't have the money to go somewhere else? Like, that's its own kind of trope, and I don't think that makes the story any different.
Right.
And then calls out, like, the story has straight and attractive men and women, and I feel like that fails on several levels. Like, Dalinar is one of the main characters. He's regularly described as not being conventionally attractive.
Yes. And
there are some definite hints that I think Brandon says were unintentional, at least in the beginning, that Shallan may be bi. So
that she and that she's got kind of like, this thing with all the different personalities that, like,
well, yeah, that's true too.
It's like this person is not just one thing, right? Yeah, I think this person's a little short-sighted in their review for sure. It's like, did you really like read through the characters? Also, straight and attractive people, like, we don't, like you just mentioned about the bi thing. It's like, we don't know that. Also, there's one of the people on Kaladin's bridge crew that is homosexual.
True.
Like, we know that. They talk about it. So I don't really get like that.
Well, and even if every single character was gay and ugly, like, that just feels like going for different sorts of tropes. Like, I don't.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think it's one of those weird things where I think Brandon actually walks this line pretty well, right? When we talk about stories that stand out as being pro, maybe not pro, but just like inclusive of like LGBTQ, right? Like there's stories that go way on that far end of the spectrum where a lot of the characters fall into that category, that spectrum of sexuality, and then you have these kind of stories where it's like they're included, they're in the story. Maybe they're not the main characters, not the main focus, but like you said, Shalon, there's some hints there that she's not simply heterosexual, and she is one of the main characters. Like I feel like that line is walked pretty well in this book, and I don't see and maybe me being a heterosexual man, maybe it's not my place to say that, but I feel like it's done fairly well.
I think part of it is that generally Brandon does not have a big focus on sexuality in general. And so whatever the characters are doesn't come into play right up front, because that's not the main driving force, is
right.
the sexual connotation of the situation. Like Yasna has never mentioned romance at all, as far as I recall. Like we don't know what she might be interested in.
She may be kind of asexual. We don't know.
Yeah. And Kaladin, we know he's been with women before, but once again, that is not a focus for him so far, is relationships. He's much more focused on his relationship with like his men and the military structure and all that stuff. Like he's not Syl is thinking about his romantic prospects at times, but he's not.
Yeah, he'll dwell on Shalon a little bit, but Syl is much more engaged in being like, I want to help you like get that girl, and he's like, no, that's not what we're doing right now. I would say that even that Brandon doesn't primarily focus on sexuality or sexual relationships in any of his books, even with Vin and Ellen, where they get married and we know they have sex. Like it's not the focus of the book, it's just a part of their relationship that exists.
I think Warbreaker probably focused more on that than any of his other books, and that's because a central point of the story was that she's marrying this god king and supposed to produce an heir, and that's why we get that focus.
And then we have like the other gods in the story that are like super, they talk about like this kind of hedonistic relationship with sex, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, that's a part of their characterization. It's not the main focus of the story, but it's kind of in the background. A lot of what they're talking about is like, that main female god who's just like, well, look at me, I'm so.
For Blushweaver, it was a pretty upfront part of her story.
Yeah,
but
her name is her thing. Her name is Blushweaver. Like that's part of her thing. But and again, everybody's entitled to like what they like. I am not personally a fan of. I feel like kind of a new wave of fantasy that like a lot of the story is focused on like sexual relationships. That is not my cup of tea. I'm not interested in that. And I know a lot of people are being brought into fantasy that maybe had not had experience with fantasy before because of what we would call like spicy fantasy that's become pretty popular in the last few years. That's not my thing. If you enjoy it, more power to you. But like, that's not what this book is about. That's not what any of his books have been about. None of them so far are like spicy fantasy books. Like that's not his thing.
At Dragonsteel, like not this last one, but the one before that, Brandon's keynote speech, part of his thing was like, a lot of people in the fantasy community, they want to like gatekeep or determine like this is what the genre should be. And he called out romantasy, which is, the romantic fantasy stuff, which was getting more and more popular, as being like this thing that a lot of people want to be like, oh, that's not like part of what we're doing here. That's not fantasy. That's like this other thing. And his point in the speech was like, there's no reason to do stuff like that. Like we can all be here and have a good time together. Like if you don't want to read that, don't read that. But there's no reason for you to like try to shove out people who that's the thing that they enjoy. So, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And even this year when we went to Dragonsteel, like we were walking through and there's a bunch of indie authors. There's a whole section for like indie authors and stuff. And my wife was like, oh, hey, I've heard a lot about that person's new book. And we walked up there and she was like, hey, can I get like this new book? Because I've heard it's really good on like Book Talk and stuff, because she's a big book talker. And it was actually, she didn't realize it was the author that we were talking to at the booth until she offered to sign the book. But she was like, you're aware that this is like pretty spicy, right? And I was like, oh, no, yeah, I know. It's fine. So it takes all kinds. Enjoy what you enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy. If you like dinosaur erotica, I may question your sanity, but it's not my place to say like you shouldn't read that. I'm not gonna
just
read
don't
it.
make me read it.
Yeah, just don't make me read it. We can all be friends. I don't want to read that. Yeah, like spicy fantasy. If you like it, if you like that romantic stuff, more power to you. I mean, there's been a section of romance novels in bookstores for ages, right?
Oh yeah, forever.
And I'm sure a lot of that was fantasy, right? But it wasn't in pop culture as much at that time.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of, more of a pop cultural thing. Cool. Good on you. Romantasy writers. Make that fat money cake. You do you.
Exactly. As long as it's not the AI is writing the books and making the money.
Oh yeah, we don't want that crap. Get out of here, AI writers.
Okay, the last Oathbringer one is from December 2022, so much more recent than the other ones. JM, who from the picture of a guy with a dog, I assume is a guy. JM says, complete garbage, storming trash. I felt nothing but boredom spren and needed more stormlight than possible to get through this. This is the great Sanderson, the contemporary fantasy genius, this middling YA trash. Sanderson's world is a sexless and boring slog, 1,000+ pages of nothing but lame, trite fantasy terms and characters that repeat over and over what, in Sanderson's mind, is immersive phrasing and discussion of flying. And it's just all so try-hard. He desperately wants spren to become this well-known term, but outside of his diseased parasitic fans, it's not going to. Sanderson is not an author, he's a wiki designer. His obsession with magic systems and being inoffensive and accessible means he has no actual skill at crafting characters. They are two-dimensional. His idea of moral gray or relativism is a character enjoying violence and then being conflicted on it later. And he is a very juvenile version of Leary longingly discussing how his female characters lounge and spread out, but he is also pathologically unsexual. His characters are sexless and poorly defined, but in his mind, he has built this grand sweeping epic. Once again, fantasy hype lets me down, and the readers that love it deserve better. So this really highlights what we were talking about, where this person mentions like 5 times this being unsexual or sexless. Like, okay, so this person wanted some spice and was upset that Brandon is not handing it to them. All right.
Yeah, that's weird. It was funny to me because the beginning of the review sounded like this person was pretty immersed in the as a fan, right? Because they're using the like I'm a fan of this stuff, but I don't go around in my daily life being like, man, I'm storming angry about this. Like that was a little weird. And then to like turn it around and be like, yeah, Brandon in general just doesn't know how to write. I'm like, okay, so you're not a fan of Brandon Sanderson, it sounds like. But then yeah, to focus so much on the sex, I'm like, this is my concern, right? Like we just talked about this. If you like the spicy fantasy, awesome, good on you. But like
not
Brandon,
everybody has
like,
to be that.
Yes, like and to come into a book, especially a third book, when the first 2 books had none of that, and be like, where is the sex? I'd be like, what? Why were you expecting sex? Who told you there was going to be sex in this book? Did somebody say like, oh, you got to read Oathbringer? There's so much good sex in it. Like, what are we talking about here? I don't get it. I just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just don't get it.
Why?
Like,
yeah. Why are you expecting that?
I guess like I would never pick up a book unless told that it's romantasy. I would never pick up a book and be like, all right, I'm ready to read about some sex. Here we go.
Well, and see, beyond that, there's some of the things that he says, like this middling YA trash, and I'm just like, that is a thing that people say a lot. I feel like when they want to insult a book, is they're like, oh, well, that's YA. That's basically YA, like young adult. And I'm just like, I don't think I see that as the insult that other people do.
No, I think some of the best books I've read are YA. Yeah.
It's like
I don't.
It can be read by a
teenager.
Why is that bad?
Yeah. I never understood that either. Like, I guess the idea behind that is it's supposed to be like, it's not as sophisticated as it should be. But I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what is it that you're looking for? Unless it's the sex, right? Like, unless it goes back to the sex. They're like, yeah, it's YA because there's no sex in it. I'm like, what? Like, adult people live and don't like constantly have sex. Like that's not a thing.
This is the teenager just always thinking about sex, and it's like, why is it not
Yeah,
here?
that's true. The YA kids should be looking for the sex. Like, what are we talking about here?
Also, the claim is like Sanderson desperately wants Spren to become this well-known term, but outside of his diseased parasitic fans, it's not going to. I'm like, who said anything? Like, he's out
Why
here
would
trying
any
to
normal
force people to know Spren.
why would anybody who hasn't read these books want to or need to know the word spren?
Yeah, it's like Spren. The term is very common in these books because they're an important part of this world.
Right.
But
They
he's
make
not
up
out
the
here
world.
like trying to force everyone to know about Spren.
He does like a
Here's
PSA
complaint.
online. It's like, I need to tell everyone about the spren. No, I mean, look, we've been in the Cosmere a long time. Before getting to this series of books, I didn't know what the heck spren
Oh,
were.
yeah.
Never even heard the word.
Didn't pop
Didn't
up
know.
in Mistborn. Yeah.
No. I knew what misting and misting was and
Yeah.
Mistborn. Because
These guys don't know that, but
Yeah.
the Stormlight people. But yeah,
yeah, at least not all of them.
Yeah.
I bet there's some in there that know.
Hoyd's in there. He knows.
Yeah, he knows. He knows what's going on. But yeah, Spren is now must be a part of the zeitgeist. Everybody must know Spren.
You
Like,
must
what-
Spren.
What are we talking about here?
It's so weird. Yeah.
Oh man, that was a good one to end it on. It was
Yeah. Right. That was
kind of
a fun one.
emphasized what we were talking about before, and then brought in like ridiculousness.
God.
Like, what are we saying here?
So the special treat that I got 5 reviews.
Okay.
5 reviews that are of Tress of the Emerald Sea 1-star
Ooh.
reviews. But none of these people made it past where we are in the book. So all 5 of these people are 1-starring based on information that we already have because we're
Okay.
farther than them in the book.
Got it.
So, and just to highlight again, Amazon had 20,504 ratings of Tress of the Emerald Sea. None of them were 1-star ratings.
Okay. So
Goodreads-
Amazon people like it.
Yeah, they're enjoying it. Goodreads had 299,427 ratings, which is not quite as many as it had for Oathbringer. It's like 66,000 less, but it's still a hell of a lot of ratings.
That is a lot, especially because Tress only came out a few years ago.
Yeah. And of those, 1,617 were 1-star, meaning 1/2 of 1%. So
Okay.
once again, most people very much enjoying this book.
Right.
And hold on, when did Tress come out so that we can...
2022.
Yeah, it was the year of Sanderson because it came out as one of the boxes. 2023.
2023. Okay, I was close.
And it says January 2023, but January is when we got the electronic version. We didn't actually get the physical
Right.
version out for a couple more months.
Didn't come out, yeah, for a little bit.
But it's okay. That's when it was, 2023. So this first one is from January 4th of 2023. This
Okay.
book came out January 1st of 2023, the electronic version of this book.
Right. So to give context for this, Lost Metal had just come out in November before this, and now we're here.
Or, I don't remember if you could get the electronic version of the book, if anyone could get it on January 1st, or if it was only the people who backed the Kickstarter who got the electronic version on
I
the day
think it
came
was
out.
only the people that backed the Kickstarter, maybe. I don't remember.
But yeah, so if that was the case, then this person, the only way that they could be reviewing like 3 days later is if they were a Kickstarter backer for this project. So they were
Yeah.
in it.
All up in it.
This review is from Mo, January 4th, 2023. It says, dropped this book at 50%. The jokes were too many and too bad. I can't be reading, in quotes, irregardless, and then the monster in the drawer has 7 different faces, just a page apart. This story is really good, but the nonstop jokes that are not relevant was too much for me. I am so disappointed.
Okay, so this person doesn't like humor. I get it. I would say that the Tress humor is actually better than some of the humor in other books, and it's a different book. Like you are reading a lot of this because Hoyd's narrating it, right? And
Yep.
so like the humor bits to me are actually kind of, some of them miss, some of them do miss, but this is not Stormlight. Like this book, I think it actually is a very interesting juxtaposition of fairy tale comedic bits along with like horrifying death. Like it's almost funny in that way, right? It's like, this is such a beautiful world and a fairy tale, and then it's like, oh god, people are dying.
Yeah, we haven't recorded that next one for those chapters yet, but there is a very dramatic death from red spores at
Yes.
the end of that section, and it's like,
Yes.
oh geez.
Yeah. I actually I'm enjoying that piece of it. And again, I was going to mention this on the next record we do for the next set of chapters. I will say some of the Hoyd stuff is getting to me. I'm like, okay, do we really need this much of it? Because I like Hoyd, right? But like Hoyd without a brain is kind of getting to me. I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. He can't think good. But yeah, no, I really enjoy the humor in this more so than I have in a lot of the other books.
Yeah,
It's
I'm enjoying the humor in this.
yeah,
also.
it's very. I think we talked about this already. It gives me a lot of Princess Bride vibes from the book. Like it's just like, yeah, this is my thing. This is good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and I love the Princess Bride, and I agree that the vibes are very similar, and so I am enjoying it. I can see why if you're Mo and you're not enjoying that kind of comedy, that halfway through the book you're like, I have to stop. Like because there is a lot of it.
Yeah, there's a very cartoony moment again in the next section that we've read that we're going to record for later, where where she shoots the cannon and Anne's head pops up. I'm just like, that's good. I like that. That's funny.
Okay, so the next review is from November of 2023, so almost a year after the book came out, not quite. Sarah says, DNF. I struggled for the entirety of the 100 pages I read to understand the world this is taking place in and who the hell is narrating it. I thought I did enough research that this Brandon Sanderson could be read as a standalone, but I was surely wrong. It jumps from first-person to third-person narration when a character from another book in the Sanderson universe that avid Sanderson readers love, apparently. I still barely get the gist of what a spore ocean is. Larger than a grain of sand, but it's a mushroom? There's multiple types of sand? You can't let the sand get wet or else you die? I don't know. I was lost the whole time and wholly annoyed with the narrator. I'm sorry, just definitely not for me.
Okay, so this person sounds like they've never read any Sanderson books, and they
Right.
tried to read this one because they were told it was a standalone. So then, yes, I get it. Like, now, not being able to follow the Spore Ocean thing, that seems like a don't understand fantasy thing. Like, it's different. It's very different. But I feel like Brandon does a pretty good job explaining it.
Well, and it's funny because and I don't know if I actually have any of them in here, but some of the 1-star reviews I was looking through, a pattern I was seeing was people were like, he's overly explaining the stuff on this planet. Like, I understand how spores work the first 10 times you told me, you don't need to tell me again.
Right.
And then
so it's like you have this other person.
Understand.
Yeah, you have this other person who's like, I have no idea what's going on. And then, yes, if you're unfamiliar with Hoyd, and even I said I'm familiar with Hoyd, like Hoyd, and some of it starts to wear, by halfway through the book, I'm like, okay, yeah. So I do get it, right? Like, you didn't understand what was going on. You don't have the understanding from other books of who Hoyd is, and a lot of the like side stuff he's dropping that Sanderson fans are like, ooh, I like that. You're not getting it, so you're like, what is he talking about? So I get it. I would say that's a pretty fair 1-star. Not saying it's a fair 1-star review, but it's a fair understanding of me to this person of like, you didn't get what this book was, and so you didn't finish it. Again, you probably shouldn't go and write a 1-star review then, but I get why you're kind of like, this was not for me.
We're so deep into Sanderson that I forget sometimes that, like, we're used to every different planet has this crazy magic system that we have to learn when we show up on this planet, right?
Right.
And sometimes we get more information right up front, and sometimes we get almost no information right up front. Like Mistborn and Stormlight are like the far ends, because Mistborn, within the first like fifth of the book, Kelsier sat down and said, "Here's how the 8 metals work, Vin. Here's how Allomancy works, because you don't know." And then Stormlight, nobody knew how the powers worked, and they're still not sure about a lot of it after 3 books and 3,000
they're fumbling
pages.
around in the dark because nobody knows, right? Yeah, so you got to get those two spectrums, like you just said. It's like we've got the mentor-mentee situation in Mistborn, where it's like, Vin, you're new to this, so let me explain it to you. And then we have the fumbling around in the dark side, and then this one, it's like Hoyd knows how the world works. He's explaining it, and a lot of the people that are not Tress also know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this one rides the line pretty well of like not explaining stuff, but then explaining it, and then like we kind of get answers pretty quick. And I think we figured out, because this is a standalone book, we don't have to. There's not as long of a burn for the explanation.
Yeah.
And so that's funny to me that there's this two sides of this one person being like, I don't understand anything that's going on, and the other people are like, I don't like this book because it explains too much. And it's like, well, yeah, it's got to. You're not going to get another book after this, probably.
but we're used to having to figure out these magic systems at this point. And so I can understand a person coming in who's never done one of Brandon's magic systems is like, this is confusing. Why is because it's throwing a lot at a person, I guess, to be like, there's 12 different moons and there's 12 different kinds of spores and each one does a different deadly thing when you get water on them. I can see how that would be a lot to throw at somebody.
Yeah. This story, as much as it gives me Princess Bride vibes, it also gives me like kind of manga anime vibes. It's like it's like, oh, it's this weird world with like 12 moons and different spores and they're all deadly. It's like it just like, I'll go to a manga / anime minute. I started reading this one and then I couldn't read it on my phone. You had to go to the website to read it, which I thought was weird. It's like the specific manga series that you can't read on your phone. You have to go to an actual computer to read it, which I was like, why specifically this one are they doing that with? But then they also like recently released the first season of an anime on it, and the anime is called Hell's Paradise, and it gave me a lot of the vibes from Six to the Dusk. It's like this island where like there's all these things trying to kill them. So it was pretty interesting.
You said Hell's Paradise, and it just made me think of the show I was watching, Has Been Hotel, which I guess there's actually 2 shows. It's like a whole universe within these shows that I've been really into the last couple weeks, and I'll recommend that to people who don't mind a very much more adult story than the kind that Brandon writes. But it's like 2 seasons of Has Been Hotel, and they're 8 episodes each, and they're a lot of fun. But it's very adult.
Yeah. So another thing I started watching, I didn't read this because it's a Korean comic, and I don't like the style that those are written in. But I found I like looked up online because I recently subscribed to Crunchyroll, and I was like, I was watching an anime I was familiar with, and I was like, what's like really hot right now? And like the number 2 one was like Attack on Titan, which I'm not into. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah, that one's a little much for me.
Yeah, it's a little too gory. This one does have some gore, but it's a lot more toned back than I think Attack on Titan is. It's called Solo Leveling, and I like devoured that pretty quick. It was what's out so far in the anime. I was like, man, this is actually really cool. I like it a lot. It's like a Dungeons and Dragons style world, but like in modern day. So like something has happened where these gates open up, and inside the gates are like Dungeons and Dragons style like layers with all these monsters. And like when these gates appeared across the world, people also had like magical awakenings where they actually get powers so they can fight said monsters. But this one, like the main character is like when they awaken, they get assessed and they're given ranks based on their magic potential. And like their magic potential cannot increase. Like whatever they're ranked at, that's how much magic potential they have. They cannot get stronger. So like stronger level enemies can kill them more easily, and they can't kill the stronger level enemies because they're lower ranked. And so like in this story, basically the main character goes into this dungeon, he dies, but then like the monsters, like the lair that he goes into is some kind of special like lair that when he gets killed because he sacrificed himself, he gets reawakened, and like he's now basically a character with unlimited potential. He gets stronger as he kills monsters and levels up. That's why it's called solo leveling.
Solo leveling. He's the only one that can level. Okay.
Yeah, he's the only one who can level up, and so he becomes like stronger and stronger and stronger. And so he started out as the lowest rank, but now he's like super strong. It's pretty fun. It's a quick watch. I think each of the seasons is only like 12 episodes, so it's pretty easy to get through, and it's all dubbed in English already. So if you're not like one of those people that wants to have to read subtitles, you can get through it. That's my plug for Solo Leveling. Not that it needs a plug because it's like number 1 on Crunchyroll right now, but it's a fun watch.
I've never seen or read any Solo Leveling, but I know Tim from Don't Gaslight Me Jesus is a fan, because one of the first things he said when we started Dungeon Crawler Carl was like, so this is Solo Leveling. I don't know because I haven't seen or read Solo Leveling, but if you say so.
I guess that kind of makes sense when like all the staircases opened up, but those closed, so it's a little bit different, right? It's like in this show / story, like the gates open. Once you go in and beat the boss of the dungeon, they close. But if you don't close it in time, the monsters break the dungeon gate and come out into the real world.
Oh, well, that would be bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the Tress. We got a couple more. Let's see. The next one is from Stephanie. And Stephanie says, I DNF'd at 49%. I physically could no longer read this. I hate everything about it. I only read this much because everyone kept saying how great it was. It is not great. It's really cringeworthy, and the characters are boring, and I couldn't care less about them. The plot is simple and low stakes, and I don't care how it ends because the journey to get to the end is complete agony for me. I absolutely hate the narrator. This is the most disappointing book I've ever read, and maybe that's my fault for having good expectations for this book, but damn, I really didn't think I would hate it this much. It's a relief to give up reading it. I am finally free.
Wow, this person did not like this book.
No, not a lot of specific complaints other than hating the narrator, which we've talked about. Like, okay, yeah, if you don't know Hoyd and if that kind of comedy is bugging you, okay, I get it.
Right. Yeah, interesting. Like, I'm trying to think that the stakes are low. I don't feel like they are. I feel like the stakes are pretty high.
I mean, the stakes are like Tress is trying to save her boyfriend, not even really boyfriend. She's trying to save Charlie. And I get how her journey to save one person would seem low stakes if you're expecting like world ending, whatever, you know? I don't think that the characters are boring. Like we're starting to get to know more of them, and there's like some interesting depth to them. But...
Yeah. Unless you're talking about the Dougs, which even Hoyd was like, yeah, these guys are so boring. They're just Dougs.
Yeah, fair. Okay. But yeah, no, Stephanie hated that book.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who my favorite character is so far. I mean, Tress is obviously the main character, so she's fun. I think my favorite character might be Fort. He's pretty cool.
I was going to say Fort, I think, is probably at the top for me. I mean, Hank's pretty cool.
Yeah, good old Hank.
But yeah, Fort's cool.
Yeah, Fort's cool, especially, again, we haven't gotten to this in our show, but like the last chapter, kind of like his background, I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
You get some background and the whole thing about the cooking. Yeah, we'll get into it when we do those chapters.
Cool.
But I that really brings them up a bit for me. Yeah, there's some fun stuff in there.
I just imagining writing home about a good trade.
It's like I would put 3 pages in about how good this trade was. It's great. Oh man, maybe at 49%. Hold on, now I got to bring up Tress. Where were we at 49% of Tress? Tress.
I would guess she discovered the cannonballs or something. I don't know.
49% is where Tress and the captain are having. It's the tea lover. No, it's not. I'm sorry. It's the liar, where she goes and finds the captain and is talking to the captain, and this is where she convinces her to. She tells her, "Here's why I'm out here," and convinces her to go to the Red Sea,
which is something she already wanted to do anyway.
Yeah. So that's pretty close to where we are. It's not too far back. Okay, last 2 we are shorter, so we'll get. Michelle says DNF'd at 160 pages in. By the time Dr. Ulam gave Tress a clunky explanation of Aethers, I felt my hackles rising. The Princess Bride, this is not. Utterly lacking in charm, a boring, unfunny try-hard of a novel. The more I read, the more I hated it.
Wow. So this person kind of talks about what we were talking about. It kind of flips it on its head. It's like, it's not the Princess Bride. It's not charming. I don't like it. It's like, okay, well, I'd be interested for them to be more specific on like what they don't like about it, what they didn't find charming, and the explanation of the Aethers, why that set them off. I don't really get that, but
I didn't feel it was particularly clunky. I think that the book is somewhat charming, but once again, that's a perspective thing.
Yeah.
Also, this is the second time someone has called one of these books Try Hard, and I'm not sure what that means in this context.
No, I don't understand when somebody writes a book and they're like, this guy's a tryhard. Like, what is that? What are you trying to say?
He's trying to write a book that you'll enjoy. Yes, it is hard. I'm glad you reckon. Like, I don't know what we're talking about.
It's hard to write. I don't like that. That's become like an expression in gaming. I didn't realize it had become an expression in other things, but I don't like that expression. Like, man, these guys are tryhards. Like, okay, so you're saying these people are trying to win the game and they're trying their hardest to win it? Like, yeah, that's called competitiveness. Like they're competing. So I don't know if that's what she's saying. Like, this author's trying to compete for our attention with this book and they're trying too hard. If that's what they're saying, I don't really see that. Like, if you're saying he's trying too hard to be funny or charming and it's not coming across that way, maybe, But like again, that's I feel like that's more of a matter of opinion. Do his comedic beats always land? No. But I don't think he's trying too hard. I think he's just writing what he wants to write.
See, I first heard the term in relation to like relationships or dating, where it's like somebody is a tryhard and they're like it's clear that they're kind of desperately like doing everything to get your attention, get to like them or whatever. That makes more sense to me than in terms of how can a book be. I don't follow how a book can be a tryhard, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just what I said, like they're competing for readers' attention. Like, hey, read me. Everybody's talking about me. I'm so good. But like, yeah, I don't see that either.
I mean, yeah, a book can't tell you that everyone's talking about them. That's not on the book if everyone is talking about it.
That's on the people who enjoy the book.
Yeah. Anyway. So, listeners, if we're not close to the mark, feel free to leave a comment or send an email to explain to me how tryharding is a book works, because I may be completely off.
Right.
All right, last one. This one is from Megan, and it says DNF. What? I never read a Sanderson. The writing style is so confusing, and I couldn't get into the story. I kept getting pulled out. Meh. Science fiction? Weird. Planets? I'm so confused. This was from 2024.
So again, this sounds like a person who's never read fantasy. It doesn't understand the assignment. That's funny. Planets?
Yeah, it's like, it's this weird ... planets ... I'm so confused.
Do you not understand? Do you not understand what planets are? I don't.
And this was a recurring theme that I saw in the 1-star reviews. Also, is people were like, I didn't realize this was going to be some weird sci-fi thing, and I'm just like,
what? It's a fantasy book.
Yeah, I don't know that this seems very sci-fi-ish to me. It is.
I mean,
fantasy.
if you're talking in the idea of Cosmere, because I think Hoyt does mention Cosmere at some point, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm almost certain he does.
So if he's mentioning that and you're talking about like, yeah, on this planet, I can see people being like, oh, this is like some weird sci-fi thing, huh?
Because they're on a planet.
Yeah,
and
like
they mention
they're
not on
planets with other people from other planets. Yeah, I kind of get it, right? Like if you've never read sci-fi or fantasy, you might be like, why are they talking about other planets and other people and what's going on?
It's weird to have picked up this book in a genre you've never read, not being aware of what the genre was going to be, and then complain that you did not like the genre. Like,
right.
That seems strange to me. But Megan, hope you're living your best life out there.
But,
it's 810 reviews, by the way.
Wow.
So, very prolific reviewer on Goodreads. I wonder how many are similar.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's like, I don't know, as a person who just knew about this project ahead of time, when I hear the name Tress of the Emerald Sea, maybe I think it's a pirate story, which it kind of is.
It is a little bit, yeah.
But it's not Tress of the Crimson Sea, right? So it's like maybe Emerald Sea makes a little more sense, and then when you see Crimson Sea and like the Midnight Ocean or whatever, you're like, wait, what's going on now?
I did see a couple of 1-star reviews that were like, I guess I just don't like pirate stories. And I was like, well, this isn't like predominantly a pirate story, but okay. I mean, they are pirates. She's hanging out with pirates. We haven't seen that much piracy yet.
No. And I doubt we're going to, being like 60-something% of the book. I don't know how much piracy
going off
going
into
to be.
the sea that's like mostly deserted because it's too scary for anyone to go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the piracy is going to be front and center from here on out, but we don't know yet. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, do they use guns and do they board ships? Sure. Do they use cannons? Yeah.
Yeah. Different sort of cannonballs, which we also learned about in this section. I'm wanting to get into talking about these chapters because it's been 2 weeks and we haven't gotten to yet. But anyway,
we'll get there.
Yeah, we're going to get there. But okay, those were our 1-star reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed that, had fun as we're reading through those. If you really like those, maybe we can make it a more regular thing now that we've got more books under our belt. I did Oathbringer partially because I was worried that if I picked a further back one, like if I did Way of Kings, we might not remember it well enough to have good commentary on whether the reviews were accurate. So, but it would be easier to do that sort of thing if we do another secret project, at some point, because these are quick, self-contained reads. So it's something that we could do if you guys are enjoying. Let us know. If you want to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanch@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Facebook and places like that. Assuming no other disasters occur, we will be reading chapters 37 through 43 and discussing those finally next week of Tress of the Emerald Sea. So I know it's been 2 weeks of non-book episodes that you guys have gotten. Sorry, that was not the plan, but there we go. Hope you've enjoyed our little vacation from Tress, which was our little vacation from Stormlight. But anyway,
We're on a beach, and then on the beach, we're on an excursion. It's okay.
yeah, exactly. So hope you enjoyed that. Thank you, everyone. Our emailers. I'm not going to read any emails today. We don't have at least 3 people, so we'll save.
Right.
We got a bunch of emails. We'll save them for another time. Our emailers are patrons, which actually, you know what? Bring up your thing. We could do a patron. We have like one new patron, I think.
Oh man, if you didn't listen to the 1-star review episode and you're a patron and you want to get your name said, you better listen.
Yeah, we have one new patron who just joined today.
Okay. Let me see here. Let me go to my fairing list because I don't have it memorized. I'm not a like genius fan that has it all memorized. So hold on one second.
Also,
all right, what's give us the stuff. Who's this person?
This is Rabik is their name at the ska level, and also I just want to call out that the alternate name it puts in for Rabik is Saxophone Nerd, which I thought was awesome, and
that is cool.
I love that that's the alternate name here. So
yeah,
there you go.
Okay, so Saxophone Nerd Rabik, you probably got to be pretty smart to play the saxophone, have some good mental speed. So you're going to be a sparker. You store mental speed.
Nice. Does that mean you could play the saxophone way faster? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Hand-eye coordination, we don't know.
Which metal mine does that get stored in? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So it could be an undiscovered metal. Anyway, so thank you, Rabik. Thank you for all of our patrons. If you're interested, you can find us as the Sanderlanche Podcast on Patreon, where I'm still putting up my reactions to Isles of the Emberdark as I read it for the first time. So if you're interested in that, check out our Patreon, and Joe will assign you a fairing power if you join.
Yes.
If you want to leave us a 5-star review on the platform of your choice, send us a screenshot of that at thesanderlanche@gmail.com. And Joe will assign you a misting power.
Yeah. Even if you don't want a misting power, give us a 5-star review. It helps out the show.
Yeah.
And I'll give you one anyway. You're getting jumped in. There's no avoiding that.
Unless we don't see your 5-star review and you don't send it to us, then
that's true. Then we don't jump you in.
But anyway, so remember, 7 chapters of Tress of the Emerald Sea for next time. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Fashion. Crab at thee.